Nothing like a little good doll on doll violence to get the blood going. Am I right? Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. Fifth episode of season 2 called Doll on Doll is here. We pick up at the tail end of the episode before last. Last episode was sort of a piecemeal to explain away a lot of connecting the dots between Glinda, and Jennifer Tilly and what's happened in their life subsequently post Seed of Chucky. This episode picks right up where the story for season 2 has been going. And so in that office, good Chucky and let's for better swole or buff Chucky. Let's say buff Chucky. They're having their interaction with each other, and Buff Chucky's basically giving him the business, and he's telling them what he's plans to do, who he wants to kill, what knife he wants to use. He also doesn't understand how good Chucky has sort of ended up in the way that he has. Fight ensues. You get some fun like back and forth between the two dolls. I never thought I wanted to see two dolls at Chucky's level beating the crap out of each other, but yo, I'm here for it. That was pretty fun. Um, but good Chucky eventually gets the better of Buff Chucky, and he actually crucifies him in the father's office. He puts two knives in the arms to kind of pin him up, and then one in the chest, and it's basically a crucifixion. And then good Chucky managed to open up the door and fall tired into Jake's arms. Devin is there as well, and Jake and Devin have been going at it about. Devin doesn't believe that good Chucky is good Chucky. And Jake is taking him for face value. He's like, no, this has changed. He's not the same one. And I kind of, I'm not so far. Normally, I don't like Devin. Normally, I don't agree with what Devin's saying. Devin ain't wrong. um, no form of Chucky. I don't care. Considering how many Chuckies there are and how many Chuckies have tried to come kill you, there should not be one of these Chuckies that you're like, I'm good with. This one works. There's something that happens a little later, and I'll explain to you that I think is kind of happening a bit. But yeah, for the most part, I don't get why you're so hung over on this good Chucky, but he is. They have a bit of a falling out, and Jake takes good Chucky away to sort of patch up his wounds, and Devin stays there to sort of clean up the scene. While Devin's cleaning up the scene, though, Father Bryce walks into the office, and yeah, we can see how that goes. He thinks he's setting this all up as being some elaborate hoax to kind of poke fun and take the piss out of the whole church and father and all that stuff. And then, so he punishes Devin. He has Devin come read the Bible. Leviticus. I don't remember the chapters because I'm not that frequent into the Bible any longer. But the passage that he has him reading is basically saying that no man shall lay with another man. That's essentially what he's trying to get him to read, and that sets Devin off. He just starts ripping pages out of the Bible and throws the Bible at the cross that's hanging out in the pulpit area of the church. Jake goes to mend up Chucky, and in that, he's taping him up, getting the blood off. He puts a band-aid on him that's like a Batman band-aid. And in that, he says, he calls him Boy Wonder, and Chucky says one of the old sayings, similar in the way that Robin would have said, like holy blah blah blah, something like holy telephone pole, Batman, that type of thing. But it's in regards to the band-aid. That triggered Jake to remember the foster brother that he had, that he really actually did like. He didn't care too much for the foster parents who sent him away, but the foster brother who dressed up like Robin for the Halloween, which was at the first episode of the season, and who is now dead at the hands of Chucky. It reminded him of that, and so now he's sort of using this good Chucky to sort of be that new surrogate foster that he kind of is recreating that relationship with. So that's the only reason why I can kind of see Jake is doing this, and a little bit of the guilt of him bringing bad Chuckies into life. Maybe he said, if I can put this good Chucky into people's lives, I can sort of course correct some of the things that I did before. Otherwise, it makes no damn sense. Lexi and Nadine have a pretty good heart to heart. They are in the room trying to clean up the body of Trevor. And Lexi's sort of freaking out. Lexi's like, I need to, and Nadine's trying to be there for her. Lexi's kind of having a moment like, I can't do this. She wants to go to the bathroom for a moment to be alone. We know that that's her way of like, I want to go pop some pills. Nadine also knows that because of the relationship that she used to have with her mother. So she follows her into the bathroom and kind of just lays on this relationship that she had with her mother, some of the story that she had, and it kind of talks Lexi out of it. And Lexi and Nadine have a good heart to heart, and they end up flushing the drugs down the system. I mean, down the toilet, and sort of have created a bigger bond. They then go back to the room to clean up, and Trevor's gone. And you're like, what? I love it. It comes up later. Nadine, bless her innocent and naive heart, keeps saying someone's either taking him or he's in Narnia. And I don't know why that gave me the biggest laugh ever. Because she was like, well, it could be in Narnia. And I'm just like, this girl is both insane and lovely at the same time. But they have no idea what's happening to the bodies. They don't know where he's at. At that point, I started thinking, okay, like somebody at this church is in on it. Like somebody is. Father Bryce brings in the usual suspects to sort of show them the crucifixion that Devin made. I think it's Sister Ruth, it's Dr. Mixton or Dr. Mixie, Dr. Mixter, and I can't remember the African American sister's name, but she's the one who sort of questions the most. Like, why are we punishing Devin? Like, this could be an act of creativity. This could be his way that he's sort of expressing himself. I don't think this is the correct way to start punishing him. Sister Ruth is kind of doing whatever the hell Father Bryce says. And Dr. Mixton, I guess, is the one responsible for bringing the kids there. Which is that first kind of red flag, like, wait a minute. Hold on. She might be in on this. Because there's no reason to bring all three of those kids here and kind of like be adamant enough that Father Bryce, who didn't want them here anyway, who was pretty much against having any violent offenders in that home, in this church, she kind of has made the declaration that they should be here. So that's just something to follow, and it winds up showing its head a little bit at the end of this anyway. We then take a bit of a pause to go look at Jennifer Tilly and Glenda and actually Glenn, I'm sorry. Glenda is not in this one. Glenn is there with Tiffany, and Glenn goes up to Tiffany and says, hey, what are we doing? Like, who is Tiffany Valentine? And Jennifer's like, I'm not answering any of these questions until you tell me where your sibling is. Like, we're not having this conversation until you give me some information. Meg Tilly shows up again and starts kind of questioning things, and what has happened is Jennifer Tilly, the actual Jennifer Tilly, is now trapped inside of the Tiffany doll, whereas Tiffany Valentine is inside of Jennifer Tilly's body. The real Jennifer Tilly inside the Tiffany doll feeds some false information to Tiffany inside the Jennifer Tilly body that she replies back to Meg Tilly. And Meg Tilly's like, what are you talking about? That's the plot of Blues Brothers. Like, what? That incenses Jennifer / Tiffany, and Tiffany goes into the room to yell at the doll, Tiffany doll, Jennifer Tilly, and then Glenn and Meg following behind them, and an argument ensues, calamity ensues, and then that Jennifer Tilly murders Meg Tilly. Jennifer Tilly, but actually Tiffany Valentine, murders Meg Tilly in front of Jennifer, who's trapped inside the Tiffany doll, and also inside of the cage, so she couldn't really do anything about it anyway, and just murders her, and also in front of Glenn. And in that, Glenn is kind of like, what the hell are you doing? It's like, I'm your mother, shut up, listen, and they have a heart-to-heart, and that's when Tiffany sort of just lays it all out, everything that's happening. She explains the swapping of the souls into I am Tiffany inside of Jennifer Tilly, that is Jennifer Tilly, and this is what's all been happening, and then lays on that there's one more secret that I have, that you and your sibling are of one mind and come from this doll, and she shows him the Glenn doll, the old Glenn doll from the previous, and they both, and she explains to them that they are both a part of this doll. It starts to trigger a little bit more into Glenn and a bit of awareness. And so we see in the final sequence for them is that they burn the house down, and Jennifer, and Glenn, with both the Tiffany doll with Jennifer Tilly in it and the Glenn doll that is currently empty in the backseat, and they drive off while burning down the Jennifer Tilly home. So that is a way for them to say that yes, there was a life for Jennifer Tilly with that last episode. There was a life that she had people that cared about her that were part of her life. This is sort of the way to like, yeah, we're going to continue the Jennifer Tilly away from her main life. We have to sort of get meta and into that. I'll have fun with that, but we're also burning it all away, and now we're going to go back into the Chucky story. Devin and Jake have a little bit more of an argument about how good the good doll can truly be. And in that, he kind of says, hey, a Chucky doll has been responsible for your parents' death, anybody that you loved death, Lexi's dad's death, anybody that you care about has been killed by somebody, by a Chucky doll, by Chucky. And it rattles the good guy Chucky. Like, he starts getting freaked out. And he's like, wait, I can't be here. And he runs off to the bathroom, and Jake follows. And Devin's like, what is happening? Why are you so into this? And in that, Jake kind of comes up with an idea of like, maybe we can figure out something. Like, you're not them. You're not those folks. You're not responsible. You're not those people. And in that, the Chucky asks like, hey, the person whose soul that I came from, or like where all these other people come from, is that person good? Is Charles Lee Ray good? He doesn't answer. He's like, no, he's not. But you are. But it's like, but what if I get the urge to do something bad? Like, because that's in DNA. And so Jake comes up with the idea that, hey, we got an idea that can probably take it. We're in a church. We can make this happen. So he and Nadine decide to baptize Chucky. And it's a little adorable. Look, I know he's a murderer, and he's probably going to murder again. That particular doll is going to murder again. But it is kind of adorable when he's not a raging maniac. But they are baptizing him. They go through this whole little thing of being the godmother and godfather of this Chucky. And they pour water on his head and say that he's good. He's clean. Devin and Lexi see all of that. And they're like, these dudes have lost their damn mind. They are insane. We're on our own now. So they take the phone that was not charged, slightly charge it up a bit to kind of get some clues where they see that there have been strewn like pieces of Chucky body parts kind of strewn out through the woods. So they decide to go take a look. And in that, they fall upon a cabin that is led by a bunch of dolls, pieces on spikes. But then we get to a cabin that has a lot of all the bodies that were missing. Like Trevor, the father, anybody whose bodies are no longer present or have been moved, they're there. They also find an Andy, who is still alive as well, but being tortured by a bald Chucky, who I think everyone is starting to refer to as the Colonel. Also, Dr. Mixter, who Father Bryce explained was responsible for getting those 3 kids there. She is also present. It's also a little wink wink. I believe Dr. Mixter was the doctor in Halloween 2, so it's a name that I feel like another one of those Don Mancini's like, haha, wink wink, nod nod type of situations. But it's clear that Dr. Mixter is in on this. I don't know what the plan is, but I would imagine that in some ways, since she's kind of been around this place for a while, that she is in some way related to Charles Lee Ray. Not mother, maybe an aunt, maybe a long lost sister, maybe a cousin, who knows. But I feel like she's a little too close to this and and not harmed by this, that she's a part of the game is afoot. She's been playing this game and getting everything set up to be here. She's the one responsible for all those packages coming in. She's the one at play that's sort of being the I didn't even mean to do that. The puppet master to all of this. She's the one who's working those strings behind the scenes. So I think as we get to these next couple episodes, we will start seeing more of that come into play to sort of unfold before we get to the back end before all the hell breaks loose. I think it also is important that Buff Chucky rose from the grave and came back. It's a funny sequence with Sister Ruth that she is now going to be pretty much a minion for Buff Chucky. He has a funny line. It's like, I rose and it didn't even take me 3 days. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's going to piss off a lot of religious people in this, but it's having fun, and I am here for it. It's having a good time. But Sister Ruth is going to be full on board as being sort of his minion and doing whatever bidding she says. So now the factions have sort of been laid out, which is why I think it was kind of, while it was quick, it was important that they got Trevor off the board because he wasn't the true villain to them. Lexi got off the drugs quickly, and now the true villain of this is going to be Dr. Mixty and Colonel, with Ruth and Buff Chucky also a part of that. I don't think Father Bryce is in on it. I would love to say that he's in on it, but I don't think he is. I just think he's so in with the Lord that his thought process goes against everything that's sort of happening with the boys being gay and then them being like with all the violence that's happening around. I think he's actually a good person. He just doesn't want this around his church and his community. I think at some point these storylines have to intersect. So wherever Nika and Glenda have gone to, and Kyle, wherever they've gone to, I'm imagining they're going to go try and find and get to the school wherever Chucky, quote unquote, prime is, to sort of end that so that they can kind of get things back to some sort of normalcy. I don't know how Nikki gets back to normalcy with all the freaking limbs she's lost, but there's going to be a point where these two intersect, because I feel like Kyle's going to try to get back to Andy, and so on and so forth. I think at some point, since there's only 8 episodes, we kind of intersect those stories so that we can kind of end up on the season finale and the penultimate episode, sort of that high before we come crashing down. But what did you guys think about this episode called Dial on Dial? Leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on Twitter at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast with the same name that's on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that plays podcasts, we're there. And like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.